Here's to Mr. Hopper, who has traded in his chopper for a gamble in the South American sun.
That was a different introduction song than normal.
Yeah. Who was that?
That was one of my favorite artists named, I'm kicking everything everywhere, it's not his name, named John Buck Wilkin. He
John Buck Wilkin.
Yeah, I wrote a piece about him in one of our last magazine issues. He died and I didn't know about it. I was trying to interview him for this podcast and it turns out he's dead.
Another one for the Ouija board.
Yeah. But basically, John Buck Wilkin was a singer-songwriter in the late 60s, early 70s in Nashville. He's one of the dudes who's actually responsible for Chris Christopherson because he lived with him. John Buck Wilkin's mom was like a record exec, and Chris partially got a record deal through the connection of John Buck Wilkin. They were also very good friends, and both of them were involved in Dennis Hopper's movie, The Last Movie.
Ah.
Yes. The Last Movie is actually Chris's first film roles. He's not really in it a lot. Him and John Buck just play guitar in the background and sing with Michelle Phillips.
Okay.
But
it's all right.
John Buck Wilkin put out a couple very good records and then kind of just faded into obscurity. That song, I don't know, because it happened back then.
Okay.
You know, why does anyone not make it?
Well, did he go crazy?
No.
Did he just sort of like, that's not for me?
No, he just played around Nashville forever and then died.
All right.
That song was written for a documentary about Dennis Hopper called The American Dreamer that came out in, I believe, 1971. And that documentary is about Hopper going to Taos, New Mexico.
All right.
And editing The Last Movie.
Okay.
The whole song, which we'll play at the end of this episode, is called Screamin' Metaphysical Blues, which is a good title.
Great title.
But obviously was written for the movie. And, you know, here's to Mr. Hopper, who traded in his chopper for a gamble in the South American sun. Had some heads from Hollywood who thought he might be pretty good if they could figure out what Denny done.
What did Denny do?
He made The Last Movie.
What is that?
The Last Movie we'll get to. We'll get to how all this happens. It's another catalyst for why Hopper ended up being kicked out of Hollywood.
Not once.
The second time.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopper was in Hollywood a couple times, absolutely wrecked his career, and then made his way back because he was undeniably at least interesting.
And tenacious.
Yes.
And yeah, he started early.
Well, if we go all the way back on Hopper,
all right,
which we're not going to do a whole bunch on his early life. There's a book just called Hopper that you should look up.
All right.
It's a biography of him. It's very good. But he was born in Kansas.
Yes, 1936.
Yes, on May 17th.
May 17th.
Which is also the date of our bike show this
year.
He
also makes him a Taurus.
Good, me too. It's weird.
But you seem like a Taurus. He doesn't seem like a Taurus.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
No.
That'll be a whole nother episode. But Hopper was born in Kansas. He spent a lot of his childhood living with his grandma.
He hated his parents.
Yeah, I don't know why. And going to see movies. One of the things with movies, and he also had this with trains, was that
he wanted to leave.
He wanted to leave, and that was a way to escape. Trains physically, he was like, that goes somewhere better than here, Kansas. And movies showed somewhere other than here, Kansas, but he also knew they were made in a place that was not Kansas.
Right. And Kansas, it was also the Dust Bowl
it was the middle of the Dust Bowl.
Here,
it sucked real bad.
It was extra bad. We're not just picking on Kansas here.
No, but he was.
Yeah.
But eventually, he, very young, made his way out to Hollywood.
I believe he was 18 when he got his first gig.
He was uncredited in something called Johnny Guitar.
Okay.
Really early on.
Yeah, I'm sure he had some things going.
Yeah, and Johnny Guitar is a hilarious name for something.
It sounds good.
It sounds like if anyone's familiar with the comedian Matt Berry, who's in like What We Do with the Shadows.
Oh yeah.
And he has names characters.
sounds like
Jackie
like one of his
Daytona
characters.
or Russ Nightlight.
Hello, I'm
Johnny
Guitar.
Yeah, and proceeds to do something hilarious.
Yeah, he's always funny.
But yeah, he was in Johnny Guitar, whatever the fuck that is. I don't know. I've never seen it. I'm not going to see it. that was early TV days. As
Okay.
everyone, he started on TV, because if you go back to Burt Reynolds and Clint Eastwood and Jack Nicholson, they all started on TV.
Right.
Now, a lot of people forget this or don't realize, but his first movie roles, Hopper's, were in James Dean movies, Rebel Without a Cause
Yeah.
and Giant. He did one in between there, but again, uncredited.
Okay.
So his first two big movie roles were the two of the three James Dean movies.
So he hit the ground running.
Partially, he was also just really good friends with James Dean.
Yes.
Yeah, him, Natalie Wood, and James Dean would hang out constantly.
And Natalie Wood was like, I think you're attractive, Mr. Hopper. I want to fuck you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, that was good for 19-year-old Dennis Hopper.
That'd be good for. But yeah, he was so impressed by James Dean's acting. He actually like grabbed him by the collar and threw him against a car and was like, "Why are you so good? I thought I was hot shit."
Yeah,
And then they became friends, which I think is a cute way for Dennis Hopper to start a friendship.
it's pretty normal, par
Yeah.
for the course with
Yeah.
Mr. Hopper.
Like, yeah, I remember the first time you attacked me.
But in fairness to Hopper, I remember the first time I watched Rebel Without a Cause, because I had never seen it. I hadn't seen any James Dean stuff. I knew about him, of
Good
course,
stuff.
and I was, like, okay, well, let's see what this deal is. Let's see why he made 3 movies. Why was he so great?
He talks funny.
Well, there's the first scene in Rebel Without a Cause where he's like crawling on the ground.
me apart.
That's a brand, though. He's crawling on the ground, and
Yeah.
he's drunk before he gets arrested, and he hadn't said anything yet. But I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, I saw that movie when I was like 14, and I was just like, "This is good.
Yeah,
This is new."
whatever that guy's doing.
Yeah.
And I often wonder what James Dean, as many people do, what James Dean would have done had he not died at like 24 years old. And I think the
Yeah.
answer is a lot of Hopper's roles. I'm
Yeah.
being so serious.
Okay.
Could you imagine
I'm
1967 comes around and James Dean is still alive? You think he's not going to be in some big fucking biker movies?
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, he liked fast shit.
he loved fast shit, bongos, beatnik culture.
Yeah,
He
man.
would have loved it.
He would have loved taking acid
Would've
and hanging
loved
out
to
with
see.
Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson and making Roger. No, he would have been making better movies.
I
like
would
Corbin
love
movies.
to interview that version, that reality tunnel of
James Dean. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'd be dead by
What was
now
it like?
anyway.
What was the 80s like for you, James?
Probably
like a
pretty
lot of
fucking
cocaine.
good. Probably pretty great, man. I think he could have done a lot of Eastwood type stuff too. But we're not doing an episode on James Dean. We're doing an episode on Dennis Hopper. Hopper, at this time, his first stint in Hollywood, was also in Gunfight at the OK Corral, From Hell to Texas. Then this movie Night Tide was his first starring role.
Okay.
Night Tide is a very odd little horror movie that is free on Tubi right now.
The Mermaid.
Yes, where he plays a sailor on leave who falls in love with a lady who may or may not be a mermaid. You should watch it.
It sounds good.
It is good.
I'm going to watch it.
It's again, it's free on Tubi. A lot of these old movies, by the way, are free on Tubi, and if you use the browser Brave, which is basically Google Chrome but better, it cuts all of the ads, so you just have Tubi for free with no account and no ads. It's the shit.
That does sound. I'll
Yeah.
have that pulled up.
You could. That's a recommendation for everyone. Tubi combined with the browser Brave will get you like every weird movie ever made for free.
Natch.
Yes. Anyway, he was also in Sons of Katie Elder, and then he started to get into some of the weirder shit.
So was this before? So where are we at as far as?
Oh, I'm sorry. After Night Tide, he ended up being kind of kicked out of Hollywood. Not because of Night Tide.
Well, even when he first got started with the Harry Cohn thing, right?
Oh, let's rewind
Okay.
to Harry Cohn.
Because he's okay. So as far as I know, Dennis Hopper is 18 years old. He's trying to get this role on a medical show on TV. He's told he won't get it. He is determined to get it. He's playing an epileptic seizure, or a person with epileptic seizures. Fakes one at the audition, which is kind of a great move. Fakes it, gets the role, tells everybody they can go home. Like, he's already insufferable. And then he says, and this is Hopper lore, so I don't know if it's true, but he says he had like 17 contracts with all the major studios after they saw his performance on that TV show as the kid with epilepsy.
Okay.
And so that he's like fast tracked to like he makes it sound like this all happened within a day. I'm sure
It
he's
didn't.
I'm sure it didn't. But he went and met with someone, I believe Harry Cohn,
Who was the head of Columbia?
the head of Columbia, who wants him to go to some sort of schooling. And Dennis Hopper just tells him to go fuck himself. And Harry Cohn is one of those big wig old Hollywood producers that we spoke of.
He's also one of the originators of the casting couch.
Okay.
So, fuck Henry Cohn.
Yeah. He's not a great guy. He freaks out. Tells Dennis Hopper, quote, "You'll never work in this town again." And
Which
this
is the first time he's told that.
And this is when he's like 18 and is just now a hot shit actor.
He survives that.
So he survives that.
And does work in this town again. Also, I believe he was on, it's either Petticoat Junction or the Beverly Hillbillies. It's Petticoat Junction's too late. It was the Beverly Hillbillies. He plays a boyfriend who's a wild guy and comes to town and dates one of the daughters, and the dad hates him.
It sounds like he wasn't acting.
Yeah. It was just, that's something kind of consistent with Dennis Hopper.
That's very consistent.
It is, with some actors like Robert Duvall, you like forget that it's him because he's, so embodies the role.
Yeah.
Whenever you see a Hopper movie, you're like, well, that's Dennis Hopper. That's not to say he's not a good actor, but he's so Dennis Hopper.
He's so Dennis Hopper. Francis Ford Coppola had to like rewrite his part
to just be like, play
and
you.
just be like, actually, no, just look like that. Just
and worship this guy who you already worship.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Being Marlon Brando. Yeah. So he's in a couple of these, big Western movies with small roles. And he's into this movie, From Hell to Texas.
Yes.
With Don Murray. And it's directed by this guy, Henry Hathaway, who's, he's a big director at the time, especially of Westerns.
You do what he says.
And Hopper made him reshoot a scene like 80 times.
Yes.
And they got into this big fight. And that's when Henry Hathaway, for the second time, tells Dennis Hopper, "You're never going to work in this town again." So I was a little bit early when I said he was in Night Tide. He was in Night Tide after that, but that was an independent production away from studios.
Right, because he still did some work. It was just far off.
Not in Hollywood.
He moved back to New York, right?
He ended up in the actor studio. So he actually did go to schooling, even though he said Lee Strasberg.
Lee Strasberg.
Yeah, I know who ran the actor studio. I don't need a name for that.
I was proud of myself because I was like, I know this name.
Yeah. Lee Strasberg's daughter, Susan Strasberg, you'll see in a variety of weird 70s shit.
Okay.
Or late 60s. Like she's in Psych Out with Jack Nicholson. Okay. And she's also in the last Orson Welles movie that finally came out in 2013, like Ride the Whirlwind. It's very good. You should. John Huston's in it. She's in it.
Okay.
It's incredibly good. It was unfinished, and then Peter Bogdanovich and his wife finished what he had shot.
Oh wow, that must have been a head trip for Bogdanovich.
Yeah, we should do a whole Bogdanovich thing. He's a
we
nutcase.
could do one just on him finishing.
We could do one just
Orson
on him
Welles.
and Dorothy fucking Stratton, because everyone forgets they were together. And his weird thing with like way younger women that he could mold, like Sybil Shepherd. Anyway,
I think that was just 70s misogyny in action.
But he did it like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like he left his wife and then never made another good movie again, but definitely did mold some young women.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, his wife was a pretty important partner. But back to Hopper.
Yes, back to our other ne'er-do-well.
He spends his time in New York working at the actor's studio.
Right.
Becoming deep into the realm of method acting.
And he's getting more into art collecting and art
and
making.
photography.
And photography is his major one because he can't make movies anymore. So
yes, and method acting was the thing that really changed Hollywood in the 50s and early 60s. And the biggest proponents of method acting are, again, James Dean, but Marlon Brando. Yeah. That's why, like, when you watch Brando stuff now, you're like, why did everyone lose their fucking minds? Same thing with, like, Citizen Kane. Mm-hmm. But you got to realize that nobody had ever acted that way or framed scenes that way or any of it, you know? Acting used to be, here's the lines in a weird mid-Atlantic accent. And then Brando came around and was like, here's the lines, and oh my God, I'm feeling it in my fucking bones.
Yeah, and that was from that Lee Strasberg guy, right?
Yeah, and that goes back to Elia Kazan.
Okay.
Before him.
Where they're like, don't be a guy acting, you're saying a line, be a guy saying a line.
Yes.
Right.
And all of that with like Kazan goes back further in Europe. Because Kazan was the first one to come over here and like bring that method that they were doing over there.
Right.
There's a book, Six Lessons
more British, right?
No, dude, it was like Hungarian and Czech and like a lot of
British, the form of acting, where it was just like more like, no, I am a man playing a man. on stage, where this was more like, no, I am that man.
There's a book called
Oh.
Acting: The First Six Lessons, which
Look
I
at
have
that.
here, by Richard. How the fuck do you say that last name?
Boleslavsky.
Yeah, sure. He's obviously a foreign person, and that was written in the late 1910s.
Okay.
And that book is again
That's about method acting.
yes.
Okay.
It's so all of this goes back further than we realized, and it took a while to get over here. And this happens a
Yes.
lot with American movies, is that we're often like at least 15 years behind.
You know, I don't think it's just movies.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not Cars. We're ahead of Cars.
That was,
Yeah. But in the same way that like the auteur theory
Sure.
with French and Italian filmmakers in the late 40s and 50s was big, and it took till the fucking 70s to hit here.
Talk
Method
about that
acting.
with New Hollywood.
Yes, method acting took its time. Hopper ends up back in Hollywood on somehow a Henry Hathaway picture.
Oh, wow.
Called The Sons of Katie Elder,
It's like, I hate to say.
which came out in 1965. So that was about 6-7 years that he was out of Hollywood
Okay.
working at the Actors Studio before he ends
So
up
he's in New
back.
York taking pictures,
Probably fucking random women.
probably being a skeezy
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
And then what happens to his career then is he isn't instantly the star. He's in Cool Hand Luke, but not as like a star.
Yeah.
It's easy to miss him. He's in movies like The Trip, which is written by Nicholson. It's about Bruce Dern leading Peter Fonda on an acid trip around Hollywood. He's also in The Glory Stompers, which is a B biker movie that has Casey Kasem as a biker,
Okay.
which, by the way, was multiple movies. Casey Kasem played a biker in multiple movies.
Okay.
He's the America's Top 40 guy, and also Shaggy from Scooby-Doo for reference.
Okay.
And doesn't look like a biker,
All right.
but apparently was. Then Hopper is in Hang 'em High, Panic in the City. These are not massive movies,
Okay.
and he's not really the lead.
Is he going through the Corman?
A little bit, like
Processor?
everyone else. Yeah, The
Okay.
Trip's a Corman movie.
Okay. Yeah. I thought.
I believe The Glory Stompers might be. Yeah, Glory Stompers is American International Pictures, so it's
Okay.
a Corman movie as well. He then has this idea. Well, depending on who, if you ask him, he has this idea.
Well, yeah.
If you ask Peter Fonda has this idea to make a biker movie that is not a B movie. Now,
You know what I think happened?
what?
I think they were having a conversation like you or I would have a conversation, be like, yeah, that would be cool. You know, yeah, we can do that. And he's like, yeah,
And they both think they had
let's
the idea.
do that. And he walks away. He's like, I just blew his mind.
Well, I've listened to Peter Fonda talk about it, and I am more interested in Dennis Hopper than Peter Fonda,
Sure.
but I think Peter Fonda is probably telling what's closer to the truth.
I trust Peter Fonda
Yeah.
more than I trust Dennis. I trust Dennis Hopper to be a madman who's going to
Do stuff.
get his way somehow.
Yeah.
You know, because where their spats with all the fighting through Easy Rider and stuff, it seemed like they were both like bitchy little stars,
Well,
men.
Peter Fonda had already been an A-lister,
Right,
in some
but
ways.
He sounded like he handled himself with a lot more grace and
Yeah.
aplomb. than-
Again, he grew up around the scene.
Yeah.
His dad being Henry Fonda, his sister being Jane Fonda.
yeah,
He knew how to be on a movie
he was.
set.
He was also like sticking his barefoot feet up journalist ladies' dresses, but he was like charming.
Yeah, they kind of were like
They were
down
like,
with it. They were
"Oh,
like, "Hey, do you want to
shame
go
on
back
you,
to
Peter
your
Fonda."
hotel room?" And he'd
It
be
wasn't
"No."
like, no, this Dennis Hopper's man really scares me.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Hopper also like broke his first wife's nose. We should mention this.
Yeah, he is not a.
He broke her like car windshield by stomping on it, and just generally was a shitbag
He is
for a while.
Yeah, he was violent.
Um,
Not a good man. We're not saying he's a hero. He's a fascinating character in art.
yes,
Which-
and he certainly output some really good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, everyone, for the most part, that's listening to this or interested in this at all has seen Easy Rider.
If not, check it out.
It's great. Easy Rider is a movie that was so perfect of its time
Yeah.
that movies make it big when you have a very good movie and a good story, but it also hits the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah,
And Easy Rider did that about as well as any movie ever has.
definitely.
And we've talked about it on previous episodes, but it was a $300,000 movie that made $61 million at the box office, and it's still being
And those are
watched.
like dollar tickets.
Yes.
Too. Back,
Yeah.
and also it was shown overseas like in Vietnam, a lot
Yeah.
of soldiers would watch it like repeatedly as well. It
And
was
then come
very
back and
much,
join bike clubs.
yeah, it very much touched her.
And the thing with Easy Rider too is that it hit the counterculture versus straight world
Right.
tension so well, and it came out in 1969, which was essentially the peak of this.
Yeah.
You know, it was when everything was coming to a head. It's the Woodstock, it's Manson, it's Altamont, all of it's happening at once. There's been this growing unrest with the youth, and this movie stars the youth. There's a phrase, don't trust anyone over 30, and like basically everyone in the movie was
Right.
over 30, but they looked like you.
Well, also, I think Timothy Leary was close to 30 when he said that.
I think Timothy Leary was probably 50. Timothy Leary was old forever. But this movie broke open the mold in a lot of ways of what you could do. It brought bikes to the mainstream. You started to see a lot of knockoffs.
Yeah.
There was always these B-movie biker flicks,
Sure.
but this started to be like, we can put motorcycles in movies and people will go.
Well, and it also is what kicked off the New Hollywood thing where they were like,
It helped.
we can make it. Well, yeah. It
Yeah.
helped. But it gave the world a lot of Dennis Hopper because
Yes.
Dennis Hopper was convinced that he was the world's greatest genius. Now, all these guys were, but like Dennis Hopper was,
He thought he was the best director to ever live.
he was getting like, yeah, he was just, everything was getting thrown at him like crazy. At
And
this
if you
point.
watch the movie, there's a lot of like weird flash cuts for a while
Yeah.
that are not a great move.
Yeah.
And a lot of the great direction is actually due to Laszlo Kovacs, the cinematographer, being
Right.
a great cinematographer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a thing that's probably worth mentioning if we're talking about him, that his
And Terry Southern writing the fucking
yeah,
thing.
his baby there, Easy Rider, was not as much a
Yeah.
solo effort.
Yeah,
as
Peter
he would,
Fonda
he would
coming up
have
with
us
the
believe.
idea.
Yeah.
Terry Southern writing it, and Laszlo Kovacs shooting it,
And then Dennis Hopper claiming credit for every single thing.
but also blowing all of the money
But yeah.
so fast.
Yeah.
Like, if you've seen the movie, the first like 40 minutes are these expansive shots of the American West, and that's
Yeah,
where they
and
spent
that's
like
where they-
$300,000 of the $315,000.
Yeah, when it starts to be like, oh, they're kind of throwing this together here, and they were.
That's why the ending part, when they're like in the cemetery and at Mardi Gras, looks like it's shot on like a fucking shoulder cam.
Because it was.
Because it was. They didn't
It
have
was.
any fucking money.
Yeah.
They blew it all. Originally, he also wanted just random like commune style work to be done on this movie, where like the grips were just going to be whoever the fuck.
Well, he was very much a tyrant on set.
Yeah, but he just was going to allow anyone to do anything, and that
Yeah.
didn't work at all.
It's like, no, we actually need a gaffer. Like, that's a
It's
job.
a job,
that
and they need
someone
to know
needs
how
to
to
know
do
how
it.
to do. He's like, no, man, she's cute.
And I certainly would like to nail her,
Yeah, or yeah,
or in the late 60s term, make it with her. No
Yeah.
one says that anymore.
I still say that.
Gross. Yeah. But this movie provided Hopper with essentially a blank check.
Right. So he
He
had
made so
every
much
reason
money.
to go crazy.
Yes, he made so much money that the studio, and I want to actually take this back a second.
Yes.
They came to Roger Corman and American International Pictures
Oh,
with
yeah.
Easy Rider.
Yeah.
And Corman
they
was like,
said
we
no.
should make this. Because Corman was nothing if not a good businessman.
And yeah, he just had his finger on the pulse.
And he was like, this is going to be a big fucking thing. And American International Pictures, the rest of the members in the board, basically were like, we'll make this movie, but we'll take it from you if you fall a day behind schedule.
Oh, right.
And Hopper and Fonda were smart enough to be like, we're definitely going to fall a day behind schedule. So they said, no fucking deal.
It's like, Eli, if you're late to work,
Yeah.
you're fired. Like,
well, I just won't even come in
Yeah,
anymore. But that was a big miss for AIP.
Yeah.
And it led to Corman actually leaving the company because it pissed them off so bad that they missed out on this fucking movie that
Yeah.
was going to be bigger than anything they ever made.
man, that would be some sour grapes.
Yeah. But then Universal gave Hopper a blank check. Universal did not make Easy Rider. Columbia Pictures got Easy Rider. But then Universal was like, we should bank on this.
Because he's hot
Because he's super hot right now.
and he's a genius.
And
So his ideas
here's a
going
blank
to
check
revolutionize
yeah.
film, right?
for your next movie. His next movie was a film called The Last Movie, which we referenced earlier. It is
He's
what that
so-
song is from.
He is so proud of it.
I really like The Last Movie.
I have not seen it.
The Last Movie is a very divisive film. I've been told by Brandon, who works at the bookstore across the street from our shop, that
Yeah.
when it was screened in
Check it
New
out.
York City, and he went, the movie was over, and half the crowd was just livid. And this was like 2000, like I don't know, 14. So
Really?
like yeah, like 50 years after this.
Because
fucker
now
had been
they're
made.
saying like, well, now it's found. Now people appreciate the
But
genius.
even then,
yeah,
like in 2014 or whatever, half the crowd was like, "Fuck that."
yeah,
So it's just like it's this insane art film where the basic plot is he plays a stuntman on
Okay.
westerns,
okay,
and they're shooting one in Peru.
right.
When the western movie shooting ends, he stays in the town and like gets with this girl. There's a very very weird scene where she's like lactates all over him,
All right.
which again people didn't, the studio didn't want that, and he wants to set up a town in Peru where movies can come and film westerns, and it'll all be there for them, and it'll all work. He's
Okay.
also trying to find gold with Dean Stockwell simultaneously,
Wouldn't you?
and simultaneously as well,
Yeah,
the
he's doing a lot.
locals in this town in Peru saw this film get made, and they decide to make their own film, but they don't understand that all the violence was fake, and they're using like bamboo or like wooden like
Right.
cameras and wooden
They have the
fucking
wickers.
microphones. Yeah, wicker.
Yeah.
And they're
So
filming
wicker
their own
microphones,
movie.
wicker boom mics, wicker cameras, wicker
Everything.
you'd use to film a movie behind the scenes. They have made it from like,
Right, to
wicker or
copy
something.
what this Hollywood
Right.
crew did.
It's beautiful. It looks amazing.
But they don't know that it was fake. And at a certain point, the
They-
Hopper character, believe his name is Kansas.
No, makes sense.
Yes. Becomes like a human sacrifice for them.
Mm-hmm. Because
Yeah.
he's a
'Cause-
tortured genius.
yes.
And we don't get him.
Because he's kind of his own Christ figure.
Kinda.
There's also, if that shirt you're wearing, he certainly looks like him.
I'm also wearing.
Yeah, we have a Hopper shirt where he looks insane.
Live forever, die whenever.
But there's also the original director in the film that was making the fake Western is definitely a take on Henry Hathaway.
Yes.
He puts a lot of his own shit in this movie. That movie did really, 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 really bad.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a little indulgent, would you say?
Yes. Nobody liked it. It just fucking came and it went and it bombed. And it bombed so bad that Hopper, again, was never going to work in this town.
All right.
And if you look at his...
And this is 70...
71 is when it came out.
So he gets kicked out every 10 years or
Every
so.
10 years he has to leave because he does something so fucking egregious.
And it's not just the squares being uptight. He pulled a knife on Rip Torn.
Yeah.
Rip Torn was supposed to play Jack Nicholson's character in Easy Rider,
Yeah.
which I'm glad it's Jack. But yeah, he pulled a knife, a Bowie knife on Rip Torn at like what's the big LA.
I think it was in New York, actually.
Okay.
I think it might have been at Susan Strasberg's house.
Okay, it's
at a dinner party.
Somewhere famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he pulls a knife on Rip Torn, and Rip Torn tells this story later. And again, his version is probably closer to the truth than Hopper's version.
I think anytime you can assume if Dennis Hopper's saying one thing and someone else is saying another thing,
the other thing's probably closer to right.
Yeah, don't take either as gospel, but
the other one probably happened. Also in like 1994 he was on Letterman, Hopper, and he tells this story again about pulling a knife on Rip Torn, but he tells it that Rip Torn pulled a knife on him.
Yeah.
And Rip Torn sued him.
Yeah.
In like 1994, and Rip Torn won because
course,
because Hopper just lied again.
You're like, yeah, because Rip Torn is notorious for punching his wives and pulling knives on people you're making movies with.
Rip Torn's notorious for being in Dodgeball.
Yeah.
And being like a fun guy and Periscope Down with Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
Which neither of those had happened by that time.
Back then he was a serious,
Yeah, he was like, people respected Rip Torn. If you look at Hopper's filmography, the 70s are pretty sparse.
He continues to work. He does do a lot with his photography too.
He does, but he spends all of his time in other countries. He does this film in 77, The American Friend, with Wim Wenders as the director. Bruno Ganz is the other co-star, and it's an incredibly fucking good movie.
Okay.
He plays Tom Ripley, the famous character.
Okay.
And he convinces Bruno Ganz, who is a art framer, he
Okay.
makes the frame for pictures and portraits, etc. To Bruno Ganz' character is dying, and Hopper's character convinces him to commit an assassination because he's dying anyway. And
Come on, man.
yeah, he actually doesn't ever go, "Come on, man," in the fucking movie.
No, you should move.
And he will then pay the Bruno Ganz character's family the money.
Right,
So
right.
it's a way for The movie is incredible. It's incredibly well shot. Wim Wenders is a fantastic filmmaker,
Yes.
and it is a completely German film because he couldn't work here. He was also in Mad Dog Morgan, which is Australian. He gets kicked out of Australia.
That's when he does his Russian chair.
No. Mad Dog Morgan is 76. Russian
okay.
Chair is Without of the
80.
Blue in 80.
Yes.
We'll get to that.
Yes.
He also does Tracks, which is the only kind of American film he made. It's an independent film. He's a Vietnam soldier coming back on a train. It's not that good.
All right.
But the documentary The American Dreamer also comes out in 71. And I want to go back to this because The American Dreamer, again, shows him slowly losing his mind in Taos, New Mexico.
I mean, he's
pretty actually quickly losing his mind.
He doesn't really beat around it.
He is shooting a lot of guns in the documentary.
A lot of guns.
It ends with him having an orgy. And the way they set this orgy up is some people with a camera go to the Santa Fe or whatever airport, and as any type of attractive woman gets off a plane, they go, "Hey, do you want to come have an orgy with Dennis Hopper?"
And you're like, "Sure."
And they say yes because it's 71 or 70 Dennis Hopper, and the last movie had not yet come out. So he was still Easy Rider Dennis Hopper.
Right.
And it's 12 women, and he shows them all his ass at one point. And there's also a part where he's in a bathtub.
Literally and figuratively.
Yes. He's in a bathtub at one point.
He's in a bathtub at the beginning.
And also at the end.
Okay, that makes
with
sense.
2 women.
Yeah.
And if you ever were like, I wonder if Dennis Hopper porn exists, it does. It's in The American Dreamer, and it's for free on YouTube.
Hang dong, right there.
Yeah. But there's some stuff that's not included in this documentary from his time.
Probably for the best.
Yes. Also, it's to note, Taos now loves Dennis Hopper, and they have festivals and shit.
Well, he's dead.
They fucking hated him.
Yeah, no
They
shit.
tried as hard as possible to get him out of town because at one point he got into it with some Mexicans at a bar. Those Mexicans were like, "We're going to kill you." He shoots one of them.
Can't imagine.
Takes off, goes back to his compound that he had built, where he's supposed to edit the last movie. And instead of editing the last movie, it's him and a bunch of his buddies with just fucking guns. And
which is
speed.
Sort of him editing last movie.
It's just him, speed, guns,
Yeah.
buddies just waiting for the Mexicans to show up like a real old school fucking Western deal. And they do. And their
speed is so much fun.
Yeah. There's some kind of gunfight. Obviously, he doesn't die. But there was for real a gunfight at his compound in Taos, New Mexico.
That tracks.
Another time, him and his buddies went with a bunch of guns and took over a school board meeting.
Were drugs and alcohol involved?
A little bit. They took over this school board meeting because Taos was trying to kick him out of town.
So
that doesn't make any sense.
So I'm gonna. Wait. Okay, yeah, just
the school board also said, "Hey, man, that doesn't make any sense. We're the school board. We have nothing to do with people trying to kick you out of town."
But I thought you'd listen.
But you were the only government meeting going on today.
This is the only town hall I could find.
Yeah. So he's just fucking out there living his bandit fucking dream. And eventually can't find work anymore, so he moves to Europe, spends a lot of time in France,
all right,
etc. Also, at one point, he's married to Michelle Phillips for 8 days.
8 days.
She's in the last movie too, but it ended by the time he was in fucking Taos doing American Dreamer and editing it. It's a fucking whirlwind of shit. Now, he again weasels his way back into Hollywood.
A lot of. Well, he's also very talented.
Yeah, that's why he's working.
He's insane. It's a certain chemical combination of genuinely having vision and just being so forceful and
skilled.
You know, and
he's very good.
He's very good, and he is a very good. If you see that early acting, before he was Dennis Hopper, you know.
I mean, even if you see him in The American Friend, his performance is incredible.
He's great.
And it's not just him playing him either. You still know it's him because he looks like him.
Well, it's in the 80s more where he started becoming the character actor we know him as.
And
he still plays himself.
We'll get the Waterworld. But the movie that he comes back with is, in my opinion, the perfect movie for him to come back with, because the movie in and of itself is chaos, and it's Apocalypse Now.
Yes.
There is a documentary called Heart of Darkness about the making of that movie that I highly recommend.
Highly recommend that.
We could do a whole fucking series on shit that went down with the making of Apocalypse Now.
We could, yeah. It's fascinating.
It's like they literally were recreating their own Vietnam. It's the whole thing is batshit insane. Brando shows up overweight with absolutely no fucking dialogue learned, and he's charging like $1 million a week, and it takes 4 weeks to even get him ready to do his fucking scene. Yeah. Hopper finally meets his idol Brando, and Brando just goes, "Fuck that guy."
Yeah, that guy's not good.
He hates him. And then Hopper plays the. Originally, there was more scenes with them, by the way.
Yeah, and he was gonna be the original assassin, which was played by Scott Glenn.
Huh?
Yeah, Scott Glenn played. His name's Colby.
In Apocalypse Now?
In Apocalypse Now.
Entirely.
Well, he used to have the story. He had a lot more to do with the story originally.
Oh, okay.
And then he got edged out, and Dennis Hopper became the sort of his character.
And he was supposed to have more scenes with Brando.
Yeah, and then he was more of the character based on, or he was more of the photojournalist character based on
the real guy.
Yeah, the real guy who actually like went out, him and a buddy, into the woods
in real Vietnam.
Yeah, like watch that documentary. It's really
good. But Brando was like, "I'm not acting with that motherfucker." But also, in fairness, Hopper challenged him on not knowing his fucking lines or being prepared, which is like one of the most,
even for Hopper,
most justified things Hopper ever did, which was like, "Hey, you're charging $1 million a week and you're not even fucking ready."
But Hopper didn't know his lines, and most of his were he ad-libbed a lot, but that's not what made the final cut.
In fairness, he also wasn't charging $1 million a week.
That's also a good point.
He was working very cheap because it was a Hollywood production, and he was allowed back.
Well, it was his only chance to get back. And plus, him and being the Francis Ford Coppola being part of the new Hollywood, it works. It works in a poetic way for Dennis Hopper to come back
on a Coppola picture.
That's
picture. Absolute fucking chaos.
Yes, absolute chaos.
Now, very, very shortly after, Hopper puts out this movie, because Apocalypse Now came out in 1979.
Okay.
Although it's important to note because he looks entirely different in Apocalypse Now than he does in Out of the Blue, which came out in 1980. Apocalypse Now came out in 1979, but was mostly shot in 1976.
Okay.
So we're looking at multiple years.
There were some delays with that.
There was many delays with that. Watch the documentary. There's a shift in the way Hopper looks in between the two movies, but Out of the Blue, he directed and basically created the property. He didn't write the screenplay, but he was one of the people that came up with the story.
Okay.
Neil Young does the soundtrack for it. The song My Hey Hey Out of the Blue is
figured.
If you listen to that song, it kind of tells the story of the movie. It is based on Hopper has a daughter. He's an alcoholic. It's apparently very dark.
Check.
I will fully admit that I haven't seen it because every time I've gone to watch it, I've been like, I am not in the mood for a very good movie that is super dark and involves incest.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's the movie that people were like, oh yeah, Hopper's really fucking good.
Yeah.
And he didn't blow his budget, and they allowed him back into Hollywood. He's also in Human Highway, which is a Shaky Pictures production, which is just Neil Young. Devo's in that fucking movie.
Okay.
But then Hopper begins to be able to work again. So he's in Rumblefish.
So this is okay. So now we're
in the 80s. Hollywood Part fucking 3.
Is he sober yet?
Not quite.
Okay.
Out of the Blue brings up the fucking chair explosion.
Okay, is that because this is before he gets sober too? So this is when he climbs out on the wing of a plane. So this is when he's.
This is the chair explosion involves the wing of a plane?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he gets kicked out of Australia.
I thought that was with Mad Dog Morgan.
You have the memory for details, not me.
Because he was in Australia for Mad Dog Morgan.
He was kicked.
There's so much shit with this guy.
He's probably been kicked out more than once. But at one point, he's on the flight back, comes to climbs out of the plane onto the wing. They get him back. I know that shortly precedes his Russian death chair experiment. At which point he shows a film. I forget which
Out
film.
of the blue.
Out of the blue. Okay. Shows it to some students
In Texas.
And then he's like, "Hey guys, follow me," and then takes them, I don't know, in buses or something. Takes them away
To some fucking like speedway.
some speedway where he has this thing called the Russian
Death chair.
the Russian dynamite death chair,
Which is exactly what it sounds like.
where you sit in a chair and he has like dynamite strapped to it.
More than is customary.
Yeah, and then there's like 2 sticks of dynamite are customary. He goes with 6. So he does this. I don't know the context for this. I don't know where he had this idea.
Why it happened?
I don't know why it happened. All I know is
He blew himself
he
up
blew
in a
himself up. Gets up and says, "This is no joke, boys. This is real."
chair. Method acting.
Method acting. I'm gonna blow myself up.
And I believe that was
And he's alive.
part of the catalyst of him
I think that's when he got sober.
reining it in a little bit.
I think that was when it was basically like,
That was his wake up call.
even for Hopper, this is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's it.
And then he gets into Rumblefish. He
Good
does
stuff.
in his 1986 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Okay.
He's also in 3 in 2003. River's
Yeah.
Edge, Blue Velvet, and Hoosiers. So that's a lot of his like notable performances all came in 86
Really good, weird roles.
that are like, but he knows his lines and shit.
Yeah. He's more professional. at this point. He's been in Hollywood for how many years at this point?
4 again.
Yeah, 4, just like 50.
Yeah, he really reins it in. People like David Lynch
Yes.
and Coppola know how to use him.
Right.
You know, where his role
Because
in
he's good.
Blue Velvet as Frank.
Yeah,
you
which-
know, like, what's your favorite beer? Heineken? Fuck that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Very iconic, creepy, weird David Lynch bad guy.
And the whole fucking oxygen
Yeah.
tank and all that shit.
Baby
Or
wants to fuck.
yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Or Hoosiers
Kinky.
playing opposite one of the best and most consistent actors of all time,
Okay.
Gene Hackman.
Mm-hmm.
He plays the alcoholic dad.
Oh,
Great role for Hopper.
great role.
That was probably the first thing I ever saw him in, which is
Okay.
probably true for a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah.
I think mine was Super Mario Brothers.
Okay. Because he did a voice or some shit. Or was that live action?
No, it was a live
Oh,
action.
yeah.
John Leguizamo's in
Yeah.
it, and he plays he's Koopa.
Oh yeah.
He's not like the turtle monster. He's just Koopa. It's if you haven't seen that, watch that. I couldn't tell you how it holds up.
Probably horribly.
It doesn't get good reviews, but I loved it when it came out.
He that was later. But a lot of people that weren't alive for the vast majority of Hopper's career,
Sure.
I think were introduced to him through Hoosiers because their dad was like, "Hey, you should watch Hoosiers,"
Okay.
and we're watching Hoosiers basically.
I never watched Hoosiers with my dad.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I remember watching that, and I think it was probably the first time I saw Gene Hackman too.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe 13 years old, and being like, these people are good, you know.
Yeah.
And instantly, I saw more Hackman movies at the time
Mm-hmm.
because I think more of them were accessible to me at my age
Yeah.
than watching some of the Hopper shit. You know, your dad's not going to be like, "Cool, did you like Hoosiers? Let's watch him get lactated on by a Peruvian woman now." You know, it's not going to come up that way.
probably
He's
how-
going to go, "Hey, we should watch The French Connection," and you're going to be like, "Dope." Because for some reason, movies about heroin are more accessible and child friendly than whatever the fuck Hopper was making.
Yeah.
kinda true.
I mean, show me the lie.
Because they were stopping heroin. But yeah, he gets again this acclaim back, and people with, you know, time fades all wounds, and by the 80s and 90s, people forget what he did, and he becomes a relic of the 60s in a way that Fonda did, not
Sure.
in the way Nicholson did. Nicholson maintained his career
Oh, yeah.
through when he just quit acting.
Yeah.
There was really no point when people saw Nicholson and went, "Oh, I remember him." They went, "Oh, fucking Anger Management
Still
with Adam
Nicholson,
Sandler? Fuck yeah."
Nicholson was with him when he got his Hollywood star.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Fonda was.
Nope.
Him and Fonda have a fraught relationship,
Although
which is a bummer.
Fonda tried.
Fonda, yeah,
Dennis Hopper comes back and pulls some more Dennis Hopper shit,
even after death,
even after death.
and we'll get there. Yeah, you're right. He did play King Koopa in Super Mario Bros. In 1993. He was
Yeah.
also in True Romance.
Right.
90s have True Romance. They have Speed.
Yeah, and then Speed was a big one for him.
Speed's good. Like as
But
an
I mean, as
action
far as
movie,
like
yeah.
that movie came out, that was a big like
Holy shit, Hopper. Yeah, he's the bad guy. He's also in the Basquiat movie, which is
That's
a good
right.
movie, but he's in Waterworld, which is a bad movie.
And he looks like
He's
Brando
a shaved
and
head.
Kurtz.
He does, which
Very
is
much.
entirely on purpose.
Entirely on purpose.
My favorite.
I saw snippets from that. And I was like, wait, that's
You're doing a Brando thing.
yeah.
My favorite moment, maybe in his entire career, actually
Alright.
comes from Waterworld.
Okay.
Because there's a scene where he's up on his ship. The whole world's water. It's exactly what it sounds like. He's the bad guy. Kevin Costner's the good guy. It's like a futuristic pirate thing. Anyway.
It was also a horrible debacle as far as filmmaking.
Yeah,
goes.
it's a bad movie. But it's fun. And, they're having this confrontation between Costner's good guy and Hopper's bad guy. And Costner's down at the bottom of the ship. Hopper's up on his ship. And Costner gives this whole fucking speech, about whatever.
The
It
hero
doesn't matter.
speech.
Yeah, like a hero speech. And then it cuts to Hopper, and there's a pause. And then Hopper just says, "Oh, I forgot. You're retarded." Which is maybe
remember-
the best movie
remember
line
that
ever
scene.
written as a bad guy, to just listen to this fucking speech and be like, "Oh yeah, you're retarded."
Well, he's just making the jack off symbol, basically. Yeah. The hand-
Yeah, it's just a fucking. It's good. However, at that point, Hopper's career really does kind of peter out.
Well, he starts to get sick.
Yeah, he does.
He gets real sick.
And it continues till the end of his life. He's in this film Jesus Son, which is based.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's based on Dennis Johnson, the author's book,
Yeah.
Jesus Son.
It's a yeah.
Dennis Leary's in it. Michael Shannon, Jack Black's in it.
It's If you go watch, I want to see that again.
Jesus Son's good.
It's a really good
Yeah.
movie.
It's not super well known. It's again an independent movie that came out in '99. He does a lot of like direct to DVD stuff. He does documentaries. He does voices. He's kind of unable to work at a certain point in the
Yeah.
capacity that he was
He
previously
was
able
real
to.
frail. He like lost 100 pounds. And
Yeah, and if you see him like a month or
Or
two
was
before
100
his
pounds.
death, which came in 2013, I believe May 29th, he gets
yeah.
a star in the Hollywood Boulevard, and he looks terrible.
he looks terrible. He's got like a bandage on his face.
Yeah,
and
because he had
shit.
recently like fallen and shit, and he
Yeah.
talks about it a lot in
Yeah.
the speech. It's very weird.
And Jack's
uh,
right there with him.
Yeah, Jack still looks pretty good. Fonda,
Fat, but yeah.
but fucking Nicholson,
Yeah.
he can still do the smile, and everyone's like, "Jesus Christ, you're a movie star."
Yeah.
Yeah, Nicholson was still. I think that was Nicholson's last movie role was 2013
Okay.
in a weird movie with Owen Wilson and Paul Rudd and Reese Witherspoon. Owen Wilson plays a relief pitcher for the Washington Nationals,
Oh.
and you
okay.
see him in the fucking bullpen in a
Right.
Washington Nationals uniform, and it looks hilarious.
Okay.
It's a rom-com. It's not bad,
I
honestly.
haven't seen it.
It's pretty good for like a 2013 rom-com, but that's neither here nor there. The Other Side of the Wind was the movie that Orson Welles didn't finish, by the way.
Oh, okay.
I finally found that Hopper is at the party that they shoot in that movie. He is in like 5 seconds of it at one point being interviewed. That's an incredible movie. But Hopper dies. He succumbs to just
Yeah.
various ailments of treating
Well,
himself like fucking shit.
Also, he had
He
been-
died in 2010, not 2013. Sorry.
and he had been married for 14 years, I believe.
Yes.
And you think, boy, did Dennis Hopper finally treat a woman and find a woman he won't treat like shit?
Nope.
Nope.
No, he did not.
They have issues.
They were divorced in September of 2010.
Well, he started when he like pretty soon after he got sick, he started trying to get her out of the will.
yeah.
And he was like taking legal action for that. They divorce. He bars her from his funeral. Also bars
Peter Fonda.
Peter Fonda from his funeral
And Fonda decides to go.
to be the bigger man or whatever.
Yes.
Put the past behind us. No. Dennis Hopper's loyal family members who are still close to him make sure that Peter Fonda is barred from the funeral as well as his ex-wife.
Yes, his very recent ex-wife.
Just to be like, hey,
One final.
even if I'm dead, fuck you.
I've also just discovered his first wife, Brooke Haywood, is still fucking alive, which is nuts.
Yeah, I think she was in one of the clip of a documentary or something.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
That poor woman.
I don't know. Seems like it worked out all right since then. I don't know. I don't know that much about her, but yeah, Hopper is a very complicated person. He, by the way, it was Jay Leno that he said that shit about Rip Torn and not Letterman. But it was still 94, so it's still pretty close. We don't script these. Sometimes I go on Wikipedia and go, did I get that right? And I find out I didn't.
Self-correcting.
Yeah, again,
It works.
like we're like the other side of the Hopper equation here. So what we're saying is closer to the truth, but not necessarily true. Because, you know, I mean, it's been so long since a lot of this happened. There's a book by this guy, Ed Sanders, called The Family, and it came out in 1970. It's about the Manson murders.
Okay,
And
yeah.
it's like Chaos, but written at the time of the murders.
It's written by one of the guys from the Fugs,
Yes,
right?
Ed Sanders. And
All right.
he, over and over and over in this book, when referencing like 1968, will be like, but who really remembers 1968? We were all on acid anyway. And this was 1970. So, like, think about any stories that you hear have been changed and conflated and overblown over time.
Definitely.
So a lot of it is true, or at least the basis of it's true. The stuff in the American Dreamer is true because you can fucking see it. You know, you can see them picking up these women at the airport. You can see him finger a lady in a bathtub. And then you can go, I don't know that I need to see that.
Well, it's not that he's fingering a lady against the bathtub. It's probably that she's 16.
I don't know. She actually looked like an appropriate age.
Hey, good for him.
Yeah.
Well, then you finger that lady in the bathtub.
No, she
Good for you, boy.
That would have been a rough looking 16-year-old. Let's put it that way. All the women actually in that movie, I believe, at least appear to be over the age of 20.
Hey, that would be nice.
Yeah, I don't know. It's on YouTube for free, so maybe go after fucking Google if not.
Maybe don't look into it.
Because I like that documentary. Hopper, again, is a complicated person. His output of work, if you actually look at it, is not super large of Hopper actually starring in stuff.
Yeah. He was in a lot for not working as much as he not worked.
Yeah, because like his prime years of the 70s that you'd be like, well, this guy's going to be the biggest star in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't exist.
No.
Nicholson took his fucking light.
Yeah.
Because who got the best deal out of Easy Rider? It was Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
Fonda didn't get the best deal out of it. People went, holy
Fonda's
shit.
Fine.
Well, people saw Nicholson and went, that guy's fucking something.
Well, yeah.
And he is and was and continues to be.
Bob Evans.
Yeah. And if you saw SNL 50, the second the camera cut to Nicholson to introduce Adam Sandler, people still lose their fucking minds.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's Jack Nicholson.
And also, Jack Nicholson doesn't pull a Bowie knife on Rip Torn.
Yeah, Nicholson's like a coherent person.
Yeah.
Who could like manage his career.
But that's what makes somebody like Hopper so fun is I don't look at Hopper and I'm like, what a great man.
What an awesome,
like
straightforward life.
Want to be like that. But as far as like an artist who got in his own way a whole lot, it's an outrageous story because everything about him is outrageous and over the top.
And when he hits, like he really fucking hits.
And he's really talented. Yeah, like he's not as talented as he'd tell you.
Right.
But
he's not as talented as he'd tell you James Dean was.
That's true.
And we'll never really know. And it's probably true. He's probably not as talented as James Dean.
I don't think so.
But he's the kind of person that will fascinate everyone.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
When you find out he exists when you're like a teenager,
yeah,
he's the guy that you're going to gravitate towards because you also hate the world.
Yeah,
and have weird.
And you're also all chaos and confusion and rage and.
He never grew out of it. You know?
Well, he never had to.
Yeah, he was handed money.
I think that's the thing we see with a lot of these. I wouldn't call them heroes, but artists we are fans of. Is you can see being given a whole lot of money and not told
And
no.
notoriety.
And yeah, and you're just all of a sudden it's like, hey, what did you want? Did you want that? Did you want that person? Did you want that thing?
Yeah. Do you want to have
yeah.
us go to an airport and pick up
Yeah,
women
could
for
you go pick up a dozen women for me to have an orgy with? Like,
And
I mean,
people will, and then women also will.
you know what I think? People like Dennis Hopper always bring up weird questions for me. Like, I try to be a good man, but what if I was 20 and just be like, now you have millions of dollars and everybody wants to fuck you?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
you know, I like to think that I would have been a better man than Hopper, but it would be, I see the.
You want to know what the funny part is, though?
What?
He was like 31. He should have had it together.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, though, you know, just from the rip, he was like, he's 18. He's like, I'm in Hollywood. I'm an artist. I got something to say. And he's like, what the fuck did you say it about? You know, he's just like
Henry Hathaway. You don't know how to make a fucking
yeah.
film.
What do you know, Henry?
You definitely haven't made a bunch of them since 1930. Yeah, Hopper is
but he's a fascinating character.
Fascinating
Regardless,
character.
Yeah,
he's an anomaly. There's a lot of really good stuff on YouTube.
one of God's own natural weirdos.
What was that fucking Hunter Thompson quote?
Something
Like that.
Yeah,
It applies to Hopper.
Yeah, it applies to Hopper.
You know, I don't know if him and Hunter ever got together. That would be something to fucking see.
I think there's probably a crater in Colorado where the two of them met at one point.
And the world exploded.
67 years.
Right, because like I mean, they were both doing the same general shit at the same time. God, I gotta look that up.
I think Hopper was definitely.
He makes Hunter Thompson look kind of sane.
Well, he's more abusive
Yeah.
than Hunter Thompson was.
Hunter Thompson was inwardly abusive.
Yeah, where Dennis Hopper was more just like, no, I'm brilliant, and
I'm gonna punch you over.
and I'm
it.
gonna punch you, you know, which is not nice at parties, you know.
But like Hunter Thompson would.
He'd drink all your booze and fuck everything up.
But
and
you'd like him by the
burn
time it was
things.
all over.
Yeah, but when the sun came up, you'd be burning your shit along
And
with
he'd still
him.
be awake.
Yeah, Dennis Hopper would be like holding you at gunpoint, burning your shit.
And shooting a Mexican over it.
Yeah, and just like I'm gonna kill a local.
Go to the school board because they hate me.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
he's a fascinating character.
There
Fun.
was a lot of shit that people used to get away with, and sometimes now it comes out because they're still alive, you know.
Yeah,
And people that are in their 80s now get shit for stuff they did in 1970. But sometimes, like Hopper, you're lucky enough to have died before then.
I mean,
So when that whole great reckoning of behavior happened, there was no one to punish.
he had like 3 careers.
It's already said and done.
Yeah.
What are we going to do now? The worst thing that could happen's already happened. He's dead. We can't wreck his career.
He got away with it.
He got away with all of it in the end.
Dennis Hopper, you scoundrel.
I think that's the, he fucking...
Yeah. Dennis Hopper, he got away with it.
Dennis Hopper got away with it.
Yep. He blew it, and he got away with it.
Like so many times.
He blew it.
Oh yeah, that's Hopper. Next week we're gonna do someone else. It might be an actor, it might be a director. We've tossed around Scorsese, we've tossed around De Palma. We did De Palma. We've tossed around Nicholson. That'll be a good one. At some point we're gonna do Hunter Thompson. But we're staying in the realm of New Hollywood, and these people. I think we'll probably hit Scorsese or Nicholson next. They're very interesting. There's a lot of shit on them.
Yeah.
They are less, what's the word?
Outrageous.
Divisive
Yeah.
than Hopper.
Yeah.
They're still appreciated and loved and have not been canceled.
Well, because there's like terrible things you can get up to, and you're just like, oh, you scoundrel. And there's like, yeah, but you broke your wife's nose?
Yeah.
You know?
I'm going to tell one Nicholson story real quick.
Let's hear it.
So we should do Karen Black, by the way.
Definitely.
Yeah, this is related to Karen Black. After Nicholson was in Easy Rider with Karen Black, he was making this movie called Drive, he said. And he knew Karen Black was going to be in it.
Okay.
From the rip. Because he was like, well, she's great, and she is.
Yeah.
And, he also had worked with her on 5 Easy Pieces.
Okay.
So very clearly he was like, Karen Black gets this role. Part of that role, there was like a nude scene.
Yeah.
So what they did was they ran casting.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Which is like just some fucking
Just
1972
sleazeball
type shit
Yeah.
to do.
Bring
to
me.
be like, well, we know it's going to Karen Black.
But in the meantime,
Let's see what else is out there.
Yeah. It sounds like a new Hollywood thing to do.
Yeah,
It sounds like an old Hollywood thing. It sounds like a Hollywood thing to do.
it sounds like an all the time Hollywood.
It sounds
thing to
like, yeah.
do. I don't know. Maybe it happens now. Maybe it doesn't. It probably still does. People are probably just more careful about it.
I hope.
I don't know. You hope they're more careful, or you hope it doesn't happen.
I hope it doesn't.
You're gonna get canceled.
Ugh.
Yeah. Other than that, we got. This is gonna come out after, so it doesn't matter. But we have swap meets. That Southgate House.
Yes,
we
think of
have
the fun things.
a bike show on Dennis Hopper's birthday, which I wish I had recognized earlier. I would have done something
You can always claim it.
connected to that.
You can always claim it after the fact.
Yeah, we totally can. It's on May 17th, also at Southgate House. We
Well,
have
good idea putting that on Hopper's birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
That was good. Thank you. Dig that.
We have an event on June 14th, again at Southgate House, that will be announced, I believe, this coming week. So right after this is released, we will be at Party at the Pen in Mansfield, Ohio, on June 7th and 8th, which is a rally.
Think my bike will be running by then?
I don't know. We're gonna have to fucking trailer them anyway. We got a bunch of shit to bring.
Yeah, that's true.
Got like boxes of shirts and hats. So we're gonna be those dicks that trailer their fucking bikes to a rally. We got our website. There's a Hopper shirt on there. It's just called Hopper. It's very cool. I like it a lot. That's shoplfw.com. You can also come into the store. We have a variety of shit in here. We're in Covington, Kentucky.
It's a great store.
It's very pleasant. Everyone compliments it.
Yeah, everybody. Get a magazine.
Get a magazine.
We love those.
Also download this show because it helps us.
Oh, yeah. Yes. All those things.
And remember, Dennis Hopper got away with it.
He got away with it. He blew it and got away with it.
Here's to Mr. Hopper, who has traded in his chopper for a gamble in the South American sun. He got some heads from Hollywood who think things might be pretty good if they can figure out what Denny's done. And I love you more than heaven in this never-ending daydream as we fly across the universal mind. So won't you take my hand and tell me you'll be with me, dear, forever, till we vanish past the edge of space and time. La-dee-dee, la-dee-da. Oh, we'll all have our freedom in the end. La-dee-dee, la-dee-da.